I'd like to introduce Pathfinder Lester to you and let him begin his presentation. Thank you, John.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much for that introduction. I'm not saying I'm 100% right, and there will be things that I'm not covering, and there are obviously even more technologies out there that are available for people who are interested in creating educational simulations. But I'm going to talk about the ones that I know and the ones that I think are the most interesting, again, in my perspective. And those three technologies are listed on this slide. Unity 3D, Open Simulator, and of course when I'm talking about Open Simulator, it really applies to Second Life a lot as well. Although of course I think Open Simulator has a lot more promise in the future in terms of innovation, and I'll get into that also. The affordances of a particular technology, because that will help you figure out if it's the right tool for your particular educational goals, right? You know, pedagogy is the art of learning, right? The art of teaching, and artists need different tools, right? You know, sometimes you need to express an artistic vision. Ideally, you would use a paintbrush and a canvas, and other times you would use a sculpture, and other times you would use music, right? And so I really think of pedagogy as, truly as thinking as an artist would think about different mediums to express themselves. And of course, really the greatest artists are the ones who explore many mediums, right? I always loved the story of, I'm sure all of you here know Bryn O, a very famous artist here in Second Life, who's done amazing installations for years and years. And I remember the thing that struck me about Bryn when I first met her was that she told me how she had started out as she does a lot of oil paintings. She does a lot of painting on canvases. And she discovered virtual world and realized it was a way for her to express things that she couldn't do in the canvas. So that's how I like to think about technology, and I find that helpful to me, and maybe you'll find it helpful to you. The main technological affordances that I'm going to touch on, as well as some other affordances that I think are important to think about, and some examples I have in the rest of my presentation. But on this slide, again, I summarize things with Unity 3D. The big thing about Unity 3D is you have a professional. You have access to professional game design tools, and I'll explain more in detail later why that means a lot and why that gives you particular affordances. Professional game design tools. The big thing for Open Simulator and for Second Life that I feel is the big affordance is in situ content creation using atomistic tools, and I'll get into more detail about exactly what I mean by that. And WebGL and HTML5 plug-in for free functionality kind of speaks for itself, right? The ability to just open a web browser and without any additional software have a fully immersive 3D experience. So what we're going to do is explore how these affordances map to different pedagogical goals, and I'm going to try to keep it interesting because I want this to be more than just a list of things. This is a screenshot of Unity's website, and I find it interesting because I grabbed this particular image on their website. You can see where it says Unity is much more than games. Visual data bank installations, laboratory simulations, augmented reality, educational apps, interactive architecture. Unity 3D started out as a tool for people to develop 3D games, but it has really grown into something much, much more, and the company that creates it realizes that, right? Its core goal, its purpose, its reason for existing is to allow people to create 3D games very easily. Especially indie game developers, people who are not professional game developers necessarily, people who are entering into the business, right? People with, people who are like, I got a dream for a game that's going to be awesome, and I got to build it, but I don't know where to start, and I don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I don't have a studio. What Unity 3D gives you are professional quality game design tools, and then they give you, this developer tool, which is the Unity editor, which allows you to build from scratch any kind of 3D game that you want. There's a free version versus a pro version. The free version allows you to basically create things without some of the higher end bells and whistles of the pro version. And one of the key affordances of this platform is really its ability to embed whatever you're creating in any web page using the Unity plugin, which means the same way you have to install the Flash plugin to run Flash applications. With Unity, you need to install the Unity plugin, right? It also uses industry standards, like, all the coding, all the programming is using JavaScript, C#, and Boo, and all of the models everything is in industry standard mesh models. But perhaps the key thing about this affordance, what's so special about, what does this really give me, professional game design tools? Well, if you think about it, a game is an interactive experience, right? So a game is all about having people come into a 3D environment, and they do things, and the environment reacts. The environment changes, right? The environment adapts and challenges and changes and reacts to the player's actions. So the ability to create highly interactive experiences is built right in to this environment, because it is a game design environment. It's for designing games, right? It's not just an environment for designing things that look nice. It's about designing interactivity. So consequently, you have built into the platform a lot of scripting tools and just components that are, right there to allow you to create interactive experiences. And so that's really the big thing that I really love about Unity 3D is this fact. I just heard a phone ring. That was weird. Was that on? Maybe it was on my end. That was odd. Yeah, exactly, Yori. So things like that, like physics. It has a physics engine. It uses NVIDIA's PhysX engine, which is, kind of like Coke versus Pepsi, Havoc versus PhysX, right? So anyway, what we did at Reaction Grid was we created we're like, okay, Unity 3D is great, but out of the box, it doesn't give you a 3D multi-user world with chatting and voice and all that stuff. It gives you a tabula rasa. It gives you a blank slate where you could build an environment like that, but you'd have to build it from scratch. So what we decided to do was to create a platform called Jibe, which is, at its most fundamental level, it is a template for Unity 3D, right? It is basically all of the plumbing to allow you to have, a system where you log in and choose avatars, and you have text chat, and you have a mini map, and you have, teleporting and things like that. We built that as a template for Unity 3D. So when people use our Jibe platform, they're working completely in Unity 3D. There is no Jibe editor. There is no Jibe interface to working on your world. We wanted to fully leverage the Unity 3D editor, and by leverage, I mean we wanted people to be able to use the Unity editor to do everything they needed to do, because we think it's such a powerful platform and such an industry standard. Everything is done within the Unity editor. So this slide. So Jibe is a platform that is based on Unity 3D. When you work in Jibe, you use Unity 3D. It's multi-user. All the content development is done using the Unity 3D editor. We have a back-end database that we've built with the system to do things like user registration and also track what people are doing in the 3D world. Think Google Analytics, but for a virtual world. We have hosted on our servers or self-hosted. People can host on their own machines. And the main thing, I'm not here to really talk about Jibe, but the point is, when you work in the Jibe environment, you're working in Unity 3D, and because you're working in Unity 3D, you can create these highly interactive experiences, right? Because a lot of times, when I speak with educators and they talk about what they want their students to do in terms of having an interactive experience with a virtual world, they want to have we want to have this simulation, and we want people to be able to go into this environment, and they do this thing, and something happens, and they knock down this thing over here, and they discover this area over here, which opens up a new area over there. You're talking about essentially game design, right? You're talking about you're basically storyboarding an interactive experience with a simulation, and that's what that's what a video is, and if you're going to design that, then why not? The best match you can have is use a tool that was designed for creating game experiences, right? So anyway, that's just to give you an example, real quick, of some stuff that I actually built in Unity. Using the Jibe platform to add the multi-user components. This is a city that we have American Central University as a customer, and we built a malleable urban environment for testing observational skills. Basically, people will ride this bus around the city, and they look at things, and then they observe. The short description is it's for testing their observational skills as they explore the city. And I'll click forward here. One of the things that we did was we wanted to challenge people based on their scores, right? Like if people are doing well, we want to challenge them. If they're not doing so well, we want the relation to sort of kind of hold them by the hand a little bit. That's actually a technique that game developers use all the time. It's called variable difficulty. You don't want to make your game so challenging that the player throws the mouse down and then run away. You want to keep them at the edge of their competency, challenging them but not frustrating them. So the environment is, here's a picture of people sitting in front of a Starbucks, and this is actually what I did was I mixed physical world images with models. Now, storefronts can change; they're malleable, so you can basically have something happens in the world, and every Starbucks turn into a Dunkin' Donuts. I'm from the so I love Dunkin' Donuts. And yes, you can have somebody I think asked about NPCs. You can have non-player characters. It's very easy to have animated mesh model NPCs following predetermined paths and all that, because again, that's a Unity thing, right? Unity is designed for games, so guess what? A lot of games have NPCs, so there are a lot of functions for things like take this model and animate it and have it walk along this path and follow the terrain and certain objects. A lot of that functionality, most of it, is built right in to Unity. You don't have to kind of code it from scratch, right? If you can think of basic functionality that happens in any kind of modern video game, Unity has that built in, and you have to create it. Right? It's built into it. There's a lot of functionality like that. So we have interactivity. So things like the city changes based on the user's actions. This is a sort of industrial area. You can see there's some graffiti there, and one of the things that we're working on is a module like where people say, if they're tired of the graffiti, they contact City Hall. Somebody at City Hall then removes all the graffiti. So you can have very malleable environments that change based on rules, based on users' behavior, right? You can have Also, just a lot of detail. This picture doesn't do it justice, but because it's a professional game engine, you can have a lot of real nice little details. Like this was a crime scene where I had a lot of fun making this, which is basically a video game store. And I don't know if you can tell, but like the poster that is on the ground under the broken glass is a poster for the latest Grand Theft Auto video game. I thought I was trying to be kind of ironic, and, it's like, oh, and the thieves stole Grand Theft Auto, from the video game store. But we had a lot of, we had active environment. The store is fine until something happened in the simulation, and then, the people who were observing the neighborhood suddenly noticed the windows are broken, and then the police come and they put up all this police tape and things like that. So all that kind of seductive detail is, and interactivity is possible in Unity 3D, and as a consequence of that, it's possible in Jibe. Now, I've been talking a lot about malleability of the environment, the ability for the environment to change based on what your actions are in the environment. And a lot of that power in Unity 3D is really, it comes from the core fact that it's the platform designed for games, right? For designing, to create games, and games are interactive experiences where the world responds to your actions. Now, Open Simulator, and consequently Second Life, right? It's a very different beast. It at first blush, people think, oh yeah, it looks like you're in a 3D kind of game environment, you're running around. But at the core of Second Life and Open Simulator's existence, the core code at the very beginning of its somebody changed the slide. The very beginning of its design, it's all about in situ content creation. And by in situ, I mean as you're logged into the environment. I'm sitting in front of you right now, in front of this screen, and I right-click on the ground and I click Create, and there's a cube, and all of you see that cube, right? And by atomistic, I mean I'm not resing, I'm not doing like a Minecraft kind of thing. I'm not, taking core elements that are predefined. I'm taking basic geometric shapes that I can, grow and change and stretch and torture, right? And I'm also talking about textures. Well, I better move my cube. I'm going to block the slideshow here. I'm talking about adding the ability to add upload any image in real time from my hard drive. And let's see, let me just upload. There we go. There's one. I'll stick it on the cube. There you go. It's a postcard from Montreal. That's where I live. Ta-da. Isn't it beautiful? We're just starting to get rid of our snow, so it gets cold in the winter here. And if I wanted to, I'm not going to do it, but I could create a script. I could write some code from scratch and stick it in this cube and make the cube do something like spin, right? That is an incredible affordance. Okay, that is something that there is no other platform on the planet that even comes close to what you can do in Second Life and consequently in OpenSim around that. The fact that at this point also, you can introduce people to this way of building with geometric shapes, and you can get people who are complete, I'm just building while I'm talking, right? People who are complete newbies at it, right? People who have no experience, and they can build some incredibly complex things over time as they experiment with it. Here, let's put some. I don't know what I'm building here. I'm just doing something weird, I'm just sort of messing around here. What is this? Oh, there we go. Let me stretch my little thing here. I don't know. Put like a weird round thing up there. No, it looks kind of stupid. Let me just keep it like that. You know what I'll do? I love to like shift drag. You know, just make a bunch of these things. I don't know. Just kind of weird balls up here, like a pyramid. I don't know. Let me do one more. Just something silly. I really should put a different texture. Just kind of. Let me put some like this, maybe. I don't know. Some kind of pattern here. Now I'm having fun just kind of playing around with these things. Yeah, I don't know, maybe they're snowballs. They're kind of made out of rocks, though. And I need to actually link them all, too, so I actually have some kind of a... let's go here, here. Tools, link. There we go. And I'll call this thing 1. Thing 1. And save this like that. Okay, I'll leave it out there. The other thing that you have in this environment is the ability to also at this point, of course, upload models, right? Which is huge. Which means you can use industry standard tools like Blender, actually build your content, right? But you know, if you are thinking of an environment, I think a lot of us who are so used to Second Life, right? And I'm preaching to the choir here. I know all you. I know a lot of you folks. I know most of you folks. As of you have been here for a while, we really forget how insanely amazing this in situ content creation using atomistic tools truly is. Because people will say things like, "Oh, you can do that in Minecraft." No, you can't. You really can't. You can build from a sort of pre-selected list of elements and things you can mine. But you can't build you can't build anything from scratch, essentially, right? And this is such a powerful affordance. And the reason I just sort of rambling on a little bit about it is just because I feel that we're so close to it that we sometimes forget how incredible it truly is, right? Some of the things, and I'm going to show you in a quick little live, do this little screen sharing thing very soon. One of the amazing things is you can actually now with third-party viewers, if you are the creator of all of the things like what I just created, this monstrosity of a sculpture, a Montreal postcard covered in these weird metal balls and things, you can actually export your models from Second Life or OpenSim in a third-party viewer and save them to your hard drive, right? And you can save them to your hard drive as what's called an XML file, which includes the textures, which means you can save to your hard drive what you've built and then upload it again, and it'll be a prim model. It'll upload your object with all the original prims and all the textures. So you can save your prim-based creations to your hard drive as an XML file. And I'm actually going to show you that in the screen sharing for a second. But you can also save your prim-based models to your hard drive as a mesh model, which means you can then save your content as a mesh model to your hard drive from which I'm going to do in 2 minutes, and then put it into Unity, because Unity accepts mesh models. And this is just a feature that's built into the third-party viewers. It's completely legit. It's not copybot or anything like that. It only works if you are the creator of all of the textures and all of the prims, right? I'm going to show you how just pretty groovy it is. And I'm going to show you with the screen sharing because it's slides don't do it justice because it's pretty fast and pretty simple. Other things with Open Simulator, I'm not going to go into it right now, but definitely look at the hypergrid, the ability to host your own interconnect is huge. Here's a screenshot of Open Simulator in Second Life, and I think this is a thing for all of us here in the audience. We get this warm fuzzy feeling when you see this kind of thing in Second Life, right? When you see somebody standing there with the hand out, and they're like the dots, right? And they're building something. That's just so amazing. I mean, how much here, the first time you actually worked with somebody else to build something, I mean, that's an incredible experience, and I'm sure all of you can remember one of those first times when that actually happened. The co-creation. Yeah, it is kind of romantic too. But it's funny. It's just amazing, and it's romantic. It's fantastical. So always keep that in mind when you're thinking about I think all of us here, we're constantly thinking kind of like multi-platform, different, exploring new worlds. Always remember that about Second Life. And maybe down the line there'll be another that comes out with that functionality. Cloud Party kind of had that going. Cloud Party's gone. Maybe a new platform someday will come out. But for now, the kings of the hill are for in situ content creation using atomistic tools. It's also Open Simulator and Second Life. So let's go forward wide here. Of course, the beauty, the reason I get very excited about Open Simulator truly is because the fact that this is an open source platform, right? The fact that it is not tied to any single company. It is instead, it is open to the community to do with it what it will, for people to take it and create their own fork of it, their own version of it, right? To create things like, in-world, private grids, to create research projects like Moses, which is a military simulation space that they use for military training, based on openness. I'm very excited about it because it's free. And by free, I don't mean free as in beer or free as in free rights. I mean free as a bird. It's free to fly and change and go wherever it wants to go based on the community. So I think I've been very impressed with how far it's come in particular in the past year. There's they're going to be at the Virtual Worlds. I know all of you here. I don't have to announce it, but all of you here know about the Virtual Worlds Best Practices in Education Conference this week. There are going to be a number of presentations from people working with OpenSim. If you haven't dipped your toes into those waters, please go to the Virtual Worlds Best Practices in Education Conference all this week, starting, when is it, like tomorrow or Tuesday, Wednesday maybe? I knew someone was going to put Wednesday. Thank you, Bevan. And, just keep an eye on it. Check it out. I can't encourage it enough because it's there's just so much potential there. Okay. So let's get to a... let's see if my computer blows up doing this. This will be fun. What I am going to do is I am going to turn on screen sharing. I mean, this is a Second Life viewer. Okay. This is. I'm using. See my mouse, right? Can you see my mouse moving? You see my mouse? Okay. See, I'm using Singularity Viewer. I really like Singularity, but you can, these I'm pretty sure, or some of the other views, but I'm a Singularity Viewer fan. Main reason, in addition to really stable browsers or the mesh export of prim models, you can see I have the UI. It has no functionality. This is a 2.0 viewer. I can see mesh in Second Life. I'm logged into Second Life now. You can obviously see. But I love the old. I just love old school. The pie menu. Okay. I know some people hate it. I know some people hate it, but I love Similarities, preferences, and switch so that you can modern interface. But basically, I love to have school UI with all of the mod functionality of the old. I've been using 2003. Cut me some slack, but you can switch back and forth. I'm going to I'm I'm in fly cam mode here, right? So you can see me. I'm zoomed in on my object here. All right, this is the thing I just made, and I'm going to select my thing. And you can see here I've called it thing on, And I've got textures, I've got the model, right? And what I want to do is I want to set my hard drive as XML. Say I want to upload this in OpenSim, right? Or vice versa. Maybe I'm logged in OpenSim, and I want to take model and get it somehow from OpenSim to Second Life. Get this from OpenSim to Second Life. This is exactly how you do it. I actually know a number of content creators in Second who do all of content creation in their own private little open grids and save all of their stuff to their hard drive, and then log into Second, upload to Second Life. So I'm going to show you how to get Second Life. For this prim model, save it as an ML file. You do that is I've got the object selected. It's linked. Yeah, linked. And over here under the file menu, you can see it says import. This is how you get your models in. But the way you out you do now different if you're using the different the mod menus. But the way with the menu, I go right click, and I go more tools. And here's my button. It's called export. This is language and parties. You want export trim-based model. Okay. I'm going to select export, and you see what it does. Pops up. My files here, and I'm just going to go to my desktop. I'm going to go to my folder here, and I'm just going to create a new folder. I'm going to call this thing 1 XML. Plus, you export. Saves the geometry of your model as an XML file, and then it saves textures as a separate file. You'll see this folder is going to contain all of that. And I'm going to call the XL file down here, right? I'm going to call this XX. I'm going to call it thing 1. I'm going to click save. Now ready for this is going to take a go. Done. Excuse me. Often. Excuse me. So let's open here. And here's my full thing 1 XML plus texture. I open it up, and here's the XML file, and these are the different textures I used. The reason you don't see views because it doesn't save them with a PG. It just saves them with the UUID here. Model. Of the model. File, and the textures are all here. Used 20 textures. You see the way you get the thing in. I'm not going. It can kind of if a room is full of people right now, like it is. Uploading it I don't want to break it on the region right now. But if I would say, let's say I took a model and I just I took it into my inventory. The way I could up it for my hard drive is file, import out. I would just select this XML and I would click open. It would basically upload the model plus associators, and you would see it appear in front of me. Essentially, the XML file is essentially how to build the object from scratch. So you would hear that whoosh sound when you're building, like when you're resin cubes. You hear that, and then suddenly my hand sticking out, and all objects would appear and move to the right position. So it's the XML file is instructions on how to build the model from scratch, right? So, and again, you play with this on your own. You can exactly what I did. I'm not going to try and upload it now as an XML file, but what you would have is, this model as a prim model. You go in and do whatever you want with it. Okay. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. I've got this model here selected, and I'm going to go right-click, more tools. Right. And here is how to save your prim object as a mesh model. What you want to do is save it as the DE. That is an industry standard format for mesh models. J is as well. I don't want to get into too much detail, but the trick is to go save DAE. My experience is the best way to do it. Now, when I do this, what it's going to do is a similar thing to happened when I did except it's going to take this prim model and save it as a mesh file format, right? So let's do that. I'm going to go save DAE, and here, you know, DAE is basically colloquia export, and we work with meshes, if you know what that means. Here, basically saying, okay, you've got these three textures in the model. Export the texture. Okay, you want to export textures? What do you want to export them as? Default TGA works fine, although you could choose something else. Consolidate faces, skip transparent texture, apply texture params. Just leave the defaults. 9 times that worked. You can see it's even and 3 out of 4 exportable textures because the other texture is the plywood texture, which is a system texture that I did not create. It's not going to export the plywood texture, see, because I didn't create it. Again, this is all legit, right? It's allowing me to export this model as long as I'm the creator of all the components, like the prim and the textures. Now, now it's basically saying, where do you want to save it, John? So I'm going to say, let me click Browse. And I'm going to make a new folder here, and I call this folder thing1 mesh plus, you know, textures. Right. So I'm going to save this. It's going to be called thing1.dae, and I'm going to click save. Now watch how long this takes. Save. Actually, I have to click the export button. Export. Ready? Here we go. It's done. And you get up here in text, it's exported, right? So now, what have I done? I've taken this model and turned it into a mesh model. Now, this is a very goofy looking model. This could be something in my word, and a mazer, which I'm not. But so, this. And let's open, right? So I'm in the Unity editor now, and I'm actually in a Jive environment editor, and this is sort of a test, right? You can see got blankness here, just plywood. These screens here, this is basically the hierarchy is telling me what's in this environment, and if I move my camera a little bit to the right, you can see I've experimented with another model over here. But let's not look at them right now. These are things. These are things. The project folder is like your inventory. So that's all you really need to know right now about the Unity editor. The project folder is your inventory. So I'm going to make a new folder in here. There's a whole ton of stuff in here. I'm going to go under here. I'm going to go. Let me just make a new folder, and I'm going to call this folder, you know, thing1. Right now, can you guess if you're watching my desktop here? Can you guess if I open up this, right, and here's my thing1 mesh. If I open this folder, here's, you know, right here's thing1.dae. This is the file with the geometry of what I've created. And then here are the 3 textures, which it retains the actual file name, you know, that I used in Second Life. Can you guess how I get this into Unity? Well, if you're a Mac user, you probably have already figured it out. I just drag, I've selected them all, the textures and the DA file, and I'm dragging into the folder and letting it go. And then that's it. I open the thing1 folder, and already, here's the object. Here's a preview of it over here. You see this? Oh, it's a little cut off here. You see a little preview of the object, and you select things in your project folder in Unity, you get a nice little preview. And if I want to take this thing1 and place it in my Unity scene, in my Unity environment, I just click and drag it out of my project folder here. And that's it. I see the text chat, but I heard somebody do a ooh. Which is, yeah, it's pretty amazing. I mean, that's as simple as it is. And see, all the textures are mapped, including the fact that I know there's a seam on this texture, and that's because you use this texture. And the cool thing is, this is a mesh model, in the environment. But if you look at, you see where under hierarchy here, this is basically me at the thing model. If I open up this thing, is save each of the individual prims. So if for some reason I wanted to go in and I can't create, you're using prims in Unity here, not really. I mean, you have basic geometric shapes you can use. But if I want to go in and do some editing to this, it's like, I really didn't want this ball here. I could go in and just select that as a sub, as a linked component, right, of the object. And I could say, like, this ball down here, or maybe I just want to delete it, hit delete. Right? Or maybe I want this ball down here as a base, and then maybe I want to stretch it. Well, there are some into this prim. So not prims in here. And not only can you have your object basically be manipulated as a collection of prims, but you can edit the individual prims. Okay, it doesn't just it doesn't squish them all together. It retains the separate little mesh model. Now, if you're trying to optimize this thing, be a deal. But I think the key thing is, out of the very basic functionality I do is the ability to pull it in a way where you can actually work with it and tweak it right. So here's a base model created, and it's in Unity. So I'll go back to second live. There we go. All right. So that was live without me create a bit here. Save it to drive as an XML file, which I could email to email that. Email this. Oops. Here. Oh, there's some email here. I could, this folder up, the XML plus text sent to you, and you could upload your own prim model, or you could, take this folder and I could send it to you, and you could have a mesh model of the thing. The key is that anybody can do this as long as you're the creator of all the components of the object, right? So I'm going to turn off. What did I do? I jumped off my cube. I'm going to turn off Join Me, so you're going to be, so I'm going to finish with the slides real quick here. Yep, there we go. So all of you are no longer on my desktop. I'll miss you. Thanks for visiting. But what I'm going to do is continue with the rest of my presentation because I don't have a lot of time. Yeah, isn't that fun? I mean, that's just so easy, isn't it? So, you have the ability to take your content and experiment with it in other platforms. You can take your prim models and move your prim models to OpenSim where they're still prim models. You can take your prim models and save them as mesh models to use in OpenSim. If you know how, to use in Unity. If you use something like Blender or 3D Studio Max, you could edit it, right? I'll be honest with you. I'm not a very good 3D modeler in programs like Blender and 3D Studio Max. So if I need a basic model, it's like I really need a chair in Unity 3D. You know what I do? I go into OpenSim or Second Life, and I make a simple chair out of prims. I save it as a mesh model, and I pull it into Unity. Yuri, if once you've converted it to a mesh model, it's a mesh model forever, right? So like if I upload the mesh version of what I just created into Second Life, I could take that DAE file and upload it into Second Life, but that would be kind of pointless, right? It's like, whoa, just keep the prim model. But anyway, so the last thing I just wanted to touch on, and this is something really for you to explore on your own, is WebGL and HTML5. The big power here is the fact that, first of all, WebGL is basically a JavaScript API for rendering graphics, and all that really means is it's a way of having amazing 3D graphics in a web browser without any plugin at all. It's just part of the web browsing experience, right? And on this page here that I've got listed under the links here, it's called chromeexperiments.com, and I highly encourage you to go there. Chromeexperiments.com are a lot of examples of just what you can do with WebGL. And I highly encourage you to look at it because if you're thinking of the future of 3D graphics and of 3D simulations, WebGL and HTML5 going to play a huge part in that. And I'm going to show you my favorite example of what someone built in WebGL. I'm not going to show you the demo. You're going to explore it on your own, because you don't need Chrome either, because Firefox, the current version of Firefox, will support WebGL and HTML5. But this is my favorite. It's called Graffiti General. And I just thought this was such a beautiful application of a 3D simulation and actually some user-created content. So if you go to graffitigeneral.com, basically in France, there's this big building. It was built, I think it was in the early 70s. Magasins Généraux, basically general stores. Basically a lot of shops that closed down, and it was an abandoned building for decades and decades. And what happened was that street artists moved in and just created all kinds of crazy artwork and paintings in the environment. And there's the building is slated to be renovated or torn down. I can't remember exactly. And so basically, someone had the idea of like, well, let's just go in there with a bunch of cameras and take pictures of everything and make it an explorable environment where you can go in and look at all the art and walk around. It's not a multi-user world. You won't meet other people in there, but you'll be able to walk around and explore all of the artwork, and you'll actually also be able to do things like click on the artwork, and you'll see a description of the artist, links to other artwork they've created in the building and ways to teleport there. But spend some time exploring it, and I'm telling you, it is just one of the most elegantly designed 3D simulation experiences. And they have this additional functionality where users can add their own graffiti to another version of this environment. So basically, you can kind of create, people are trying to create their own virtual version of this building. So you can explore the real world artwork, and then create your own virtual version as well. So I really just wanted to end on that. When you're thinking of using the right technology for matching technology with pedagogy, I think at the end of the day you have to also think about not just these specific different technologies, but is 3D good for what I'm trying to do? Right? Is 3D, using a 3D simulation, match my pedagogical goals, match my art of learning and teaching that I'm trying to express? And I love this Graffiti General because it's just one of the most recent versions of a perfect match of, this is a perfect use of 3D simulations, and it just so happens to use WebGL and HTML5, which are, I think, technologies that we should all be keeping an eye on. And really, that's it. That's my talk.